My question quicker. Will you commit to continuing the DOJ 2002 policy of just enforcing it as if it was one-to-one?
Yeah, and I will look at that policy if I am confirmed as Attorney General. I had no idea it was 18-to-1. That I will look at that policy if confirmed and report back to you right away. It sounds like if I'm confirmed, I have a lot of.
Senator Booker.
Thank you, and I'm grateful to Senator Britt for bringing that up. It's probably one of the most bipartisan commitments if we're going to fulfill our duties as of the Constitution to give oversight. It's really important that we get timely responses, and I'm grateful for that. I want to jump back right in where we were talking in last is just about the crack and powder cocaine disparities that we discussed in my office. It's something that this committee in a bipartisan way have done a lot on. We discussed about the 18-to-1 sentencing disparity, which came down from 100-to-1. I've been working in good faith with people like Senator Grassley on trying to just get justice with that, move it as much towards 1-to-1 as possible. We know that actually in Florida, your home state, as well as 43 other states, it's
1-to-1.
It's 1-to-1. Thank you for making my question quicker. Will you commit to continuing the DOJ 2002 policy of just enforcing it as if it was 1-to-1?
Yeah, and I will look at that policy if I am confirmed as Attorney General. I had no idea it was 18-to-1. That I will look at that policy if confirmed and report back to you right away. It sounds like if I'm confirmed, I have a lot of reporting backs to do right away.
Thank you.
But I will, Senator.
Am I overly stating the fact that, reading from your expression, that you seem to think that 18-to-1, especially given what's going on in Florida, seems unreasonable?
I was unaware that that was happening and why you would want it to be 1-to-1.
Right. I know your sincere and heartfelt beliefs on abortion in general, and I respect that and our differences on it. But when it comes to medication abortion, over 2 decades ago, the Food and Drug Administration approved the medication abortion pill mifepristone as safe and effective. Decades of research continue to confirm the drug's safety. However, access to mifepristone was threatened by several lawsuits that second-guess the FDA's expert judgment about the drug. The Department of Justice has vigorously defended the FDA's judgment about the safetiness and effectiveness, and I guess a lot of people are concerned about reversing a policy that could deeply affect people's access to mifepristone. I'm wondering if you would commit to continuing the U.S. Department of Justice's efforts to defend the FDA's judgment in lawsuits against mifepristone.
And I was not aware of that, Senator, until we spoke. And I think I told you I will look at that policy. I was not aware of the policy. I will look at that policy. I am personally pro-life. I've always been pro-life, but I will look at that policy. I will not let my personal beliefs affect how I carry out the law.
I wish I had more than 90 seconds to talk to you about an issue, but you've been so willing to talk to me about it. But the First Step Act implementation is, in my opinion, in a dire state. We had a bipartisan bill with 87 senators voting for it, 88 if Lindsey Graham was not off fighting the world's fight. I would like to make sure that you work with us to have implementation done. One of the reasons why it's so poorly implemented is because of the disastrous realities in the Bureau of Prisons. We've had bipartisan hearings here about the egregious stuff. The hearing was so disturbing that one of my colleagues on the other side came over and said, whatever I can do, let's work together. It is understaffed, and therefore a lot of the people that are supposed to be implementing the programs that would help for people to earn time credit to get out, the education programs that are proven to reduce recidivism, can't be done because the Bureau of Prisons is a disaster in terms of staffing and funding. People leave their federal correctional officers' jobs to go to state because they can make significantly more money. Is this a cause?
Morale is horrible.
Yes, morale is horrible. Do you feel a sense of urgency like I do to focus on the Bureau of Prisons, to deal with the staffing issues and help for the full implementation of the First Step Act?
Yes, Senator, and yes, and I spoke about that, I think, when you were in another committee hearing, but yes, I will, of course.
Thank you for the latitude, Mr. Chairman.
For a question for both the nominee and you, Senator Booker. You were talking about this 1-to-1 equation. If your implication to her was that it could be done through her actions, then it seems we've been wasting our time trying to find a compromise between you and me on that subject for legislation.
I didn't prepare for this hearing, sir. I didn't know I'd be asked questions. I look forward to working with you. I do believe that it should be done judicially as well as with prosecutorial discretion. Okay. It should be done legislatively as well as prosecutorial discretion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Bondi, I congratulate you on an excellent job at this hearing.
Moments ago in this hearing, the tension did not explode with shouting or theatrics. It unfolded quietly, in measured sentences, in the space between a direct question and an uncertain answer. Senator Cory Booker pressed the nominee, Pam Bondi, on a long-standing sentencing imbalance that has shaped lives, communities, and the credibility of the justice system itself. When he asked whether she would continue enforcing policy as if punishment ratios were equal, 1-to-1, her response revealed more than a position. It revealed hesitation, unfamiliarity, and a promise to look at it after the fact. That pause matters, because what we just witnessed was not merely an exchange about policy technicalities. It was a window into how power operates when long-recognized inequities collide with institutional inertia. For decades, lawmakers across party lines have acknowledged that sentencing standards were distorted in ways that disproportionately punished certain communities. That recognition led to reforms. Ratios were narrowed, standards were softened. But as Senator Booker reminded this committee, narrowing a gap does not close it. Progress unfinished is still injustice deferred. What makes this moment striking is not that disagreement exists. Disagreement is the lifeblood of a democracy. What matters is that Senator Booker laid out the reality plainly. 40-plus states, including the nominee's own home state, already operate under equal standards. The federal system lags behind. And yet, when asked whether existing Department of Justice policy would continue to be enforced in a way that reflects equality, the nominee admitted she was unaware of the current disparity. In a confirmation hearing for the nation's top law enforcement official, unawareness is not a neutral detail. It raises a fundamental question about readiness, because justice is not only about intention, it is about knowledge, preparation, and urgency. That same theme echoed moments later when the conversation shifted to access, authority, and the role of science in governance. Senator Booker turned to another issue where law, expertise, and personal belief intersect. For over 2 decades, federal agencies have relied on extensive research to guide regulatory decisions. The Department of Justice has historically defended those expert judgments in court. When asked whether that defense would continue, the answer was once again cautious. Personal views were acknowledged, assurances were offered. But clarity remained elusive. And this is where the stakes grow larger than any single policy. The Department of Justice is not a personal platform. It is not a reflection of individual belief. It is an institution meant to stand between power and the people, guided by law, evidence, and constitutional duty. When nominees speak of reviewing long-standing positions without demonstrating familiarity with them, it sends a signal, not of malice, but of uncertainty at the helm. The hearing's final movement brought the conversation to a place rarely seen by the public, the daily reality of the federal prison system. Senator Booker described understaffing so severe that programs proven to reduce repeat offenses cannot function. Officers leaving for better-paying state positions. Facilities stretched thin. Morale collapsing. This was not rhetoric. It was testimony grounded in bipartisan hearings, first-hand accounts, and institutional data. The First Step Act, passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, was designed to offer rehabilitation, education, and a path forward. But laws do not implement themselves. Without staffing, without funding, without leadership that treats implementation as urgent rather than optional, reform becomes symbolic, and symbolism does not change lives. When the nominee acknowledged the severity of the staffing crisis and expressed agreement on the need for urgency, it was a rare moment of alignment. Yet even here, the broader pattern remained. Agreement in principle. Review promised, action deferred. This is the quiet danger exposed by this hearing. Not corruption, not spectacle, but drift. A system that recognizes problems yet moves too slowly to correct them. Leaders who express concern but arrive unfamiliar with the details. A justice apparatus weighed down not by lack of ideas, but by lack of momentum. And in that drift, real consequences accumulate. Justice delayed becomes trust eroded. Oversight postponed becomes accountability diluted. When equal standards exist on paper but not in practice, the public begins to question whether fairness is truly a principle or merely an aspiration. Senator Booker's questions were not ideological traps. They were stress tests, tests of preparedness, tests of moral clarity, tests of whether the next steward of the nation's legal system understands not only what the law says, but whom it serves. Because leadership in justice is not measured by how well one defends personal belief, but by how faithfully one upholds the rule of law, especially when it is inconvenient, especially when it challenges tradition, especially when it demands urgency rather than patience. As this hearing closes, the image that lingers is not confrontation, but contrast. A senator invoking bipartisan work, lived realities, and unfinished reform. A nominee promising review, study, and future responses. Between them lies the question every viewer must consider. Does justice move forward by waiting to look things up later, or by arriving ready, informed, and prepared to act? In a democracy, these hearings are not theater. They are safeguards. They are the public's chance to see how power will be exercised before it is granted. And moments like this remind us why vigilance matters, because justice does not defend itself. If you believe accountability matters, if you believe oversight matters, if you believe the law must serve fairness, not habit, then stay engaged. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA. Support our work to expose the truth.